You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time once again for the Crypto Rundown, the program where we break down all of the interesting action, the volatility, the SKEW, the unusual activity, all that stuff going on the crypto side of the fence. So we'll talk some of the spot, but we'll talk the futures, we'll talk the options, we'll talk all the other good stuff going on in there. And Bitcoin, a bunch of the altcoin there as well. And we'll answer a bunch of your questions. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting The Options Insider Radio Network. I continue to be amazed by all the new folks discovering the show. It's been running for pretty much about exactly a year now, so it's still to me the new show on the network, even though it's been cranking away for a little bit. We'd love to see all you newcomers discovering the program. Maybe you never heard of an option before in your life and you come to us for the first time. Maybe you're one of our old-school listeners who's getting a little bit lured to the dark side of crypto derivatives. Either way, we love it. We love to see you guys are loving it. And if you enjoy what you hear, head on over to your platform of choice, leave a review there. That helps new people continue to discover this program, which is fun. You know, we see all the data, all the metrics, and all these little hot spots all over the country firing up that aren't your traditional options meccas. It's always fun to see that. So keep that alive. And, of course, however you listen, live after the fact, you get us, of course, usually it's on Mondays right around 2 p.m. Central. Sometimes we have to adjust that schedule for the live because we have a variety of guests, usually from overseas. So it's hard to make the times work sometimes. But in this case, we're going to keep you going with a nice little crypto quick hit here today, and then we'll get back into the hot seat and all that other fun stuff in upcoming shows. So without further ado, let's get right into the Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trading activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown. This is indeed the portion of the program where we break down what the heck is going on in the world of Bitcoin. That, of course, is the spot, but it's also the futures. It's also the growing universe of options out there, which, as we know, has gotten quite extensive. New products have listed just since the new year, indeed the new decade started. So a lot to sink our teeth into. Let's start off looking at how we fared. And it has been a good week for the Bitcoin bulls out there, even as the broad indices, the broad equity markets have kind of vacillated. We've seen these ebbing, these waxing and waning pandemic fears out there really weighing on the market. Then days like today, it's all behind us. Apparently, the broad markets are rallying again. We've had a lot of that back and forth. Of course, you have earnings popping off in the broad equity world as well. And the crypto world, as people have debated before, seems to be a little bit, I wouldn't say immune, but a little bit, shall we say, uninfluenced by a lot of those events because it's been pretty much still firmly to the upside. Yet another week where Bitcoin ending the week up, at least from our frame of reference, last show to this show, up a little bit over 400 handles right now. It was about exactly 400 handles coming into showtime. Now we've seen the rally extend itself a little bit. Bitcoin is at right around a 93.10 right now, so that puts it up about another 20 or so handles about there. So about 420 or so out there for all of you who were into Mr. Musk's tweets, which Tesla, 300 handles beyond that now. So, what a crazy time it has been out there in the markets. Let's get on out into what's going on from a vol perspective out there in Bitcoin land. Remember, a lot of these analytics coming to you courtesy of our friends over there in SKEW land. SKEW.com is the place to go. If you want to sink your teeth into some true crypto derivatives analytics, that's the place to go and get going right now because it's free, still free for the time being. So good. I can easily recommend the cost to all of you out there who are price sensitive. And coming into today's show, we've seen that 30-day realized vol. It's up a little bit. It's up to about 59%. It was 53% on our last show. So we've seen obviously a little bit of movement over the course of the past month. So that ticking up a little bit, not a huge surprise. 30-day implied, that's actually down a little bit. So right about 56. It's pretty much unched. It was 57 last show, 56% this week, which again just kind of goes to show that the level of movement we're seeing out there right now is sustaining this level of vol. This level of vol is sustainable, and it has been for some time. We've been around this level for a while. It's not really dropping dramatically. It's not rallying dramatically. It's kind of staying steady right here. We're seeing enough movement to warrant this. At the end of the day, I've always said the volatility math is pretty basic math, and if you're moving enough to justify this level, you'll stay there. And for the time being, at least, we're seeing enough volatility and enough movement to maintain this level of volatility. We're also seeing some decent paper out there on at least most of the fronts, not all of them. We'll get to some of the laggards in a bit, but out there on the still primary venue for a lot of you, which is, of course, DERIBIT. Looking at the options, we use that barometer of around 30 million notional as kind of whether the day is a decent day or not. We've had most of the days over the course of the past week were well over that threshold. On the 27th, which was our last show day, 60 million total, 65 million on the 28th, 72 million on the 29th, 66 million on the 30th, and on the 31st, we had 98 million contracts going up. So 98 million contracts. Look at me. Showing my biases yet again. 98 million worth of notional. I wish 98 million contracts out there. So yeah, it's pretty active times out there from an overall Bitcoin options front. At least when you're looking on Deribit, we'll get to CME in a minute. And looking at the big trades out here in Deribit land, the big print was a 350 lot of the Feb, 10,000 calls that went up on the 30th for, or I should say, 0.0153 Bitcoin if you are into such fractional pricing, which, by the way, I am not. And also, the Bitcoin at the time is at about 93.31, so close to where we are right now, quite frankly, at these levels. So it could have been a bit of an overwrite. Could be someone, given what we see in the SKEW, could be someone maybe gobbling up a little bit of upside love there. Either way, 350 lot, the biggest print we saw out there over the course of the past week. See a lot of 50 lots and other things going up. Seeing your typical, usual kind of decent size flow out there. Not a lot of huge blocks in terms of big options print. Looking at the SKEW come into this show, we're seeing that 30-day SKEW about not quite minus 8%, about minus 7.7%. It's a little bit shy of the average, which is about minus 6.3%. So seeing a little bit of that bias coming in, but not a ton yet. Minus almost 8% there. Again, that's at 50 delta SKEW, 25 delta call, 25 delta put. Looking out here to the call to put ratio. Again, this is on Deribit. We're seeing it at about a 0.6. So that's up a little bit from our last show, but not a ton. And so, yeah, about 0.6, which is, again, not huge. The average actually out there is a little bit shy of the average, which is about 0.68 out there. So 68% calls. Right now we're at about a 60% calls. Open interest over there. Let's look at across. There's a bunch of different venues right now. They're showing, actually they have open interest now for BAKKT options, which is kind of interesting. And it's showing 186,000 is their net notional value of their options open. So not a ton. Again, this is all quoted in notional, so take that for what you will. LedgerX has about 40 million worth of notional open right now. CME coming in at about 3.7 million. So the CME options still not lighting it up a ton. Deribit at about 534 million worth of notional. And OKX that's actually about 41 million worth of OI. So that puts them up there, right up there with LedgerX, which is kind of interesting. Where is that action? At least right now out there, that's combined across, I guess this is across all the venues actually. The OI is aggregated pretty much still in March. That's where the lion's share of the paper is, about 28,000 contracts open out there. So that's interesting how they quote contracts there. Again, it's open interest, so you kind of have to, where everything else is in notional. Again, that's why I don't like the notional usage. It's just confusing for too many people out there. Looking over a little bit, drilling down a little bit now to what's going on the CME options front. It's kind of been another light week. We saw the big spike again. This is again quoted in notional. If you get to contract volume, it's going to be in the single digits, maybe in the low teens to maybe low 20s if you're lucky. But contract overall hasn't been a ton of contracts. The biggest notional day still remains that Jan 17th day. It did close to 6 million of notional. Hasn't really come close to that since the biggest day over the course of the past week. Looks like it was the 28th of January with just shy of 2 million. It's like about 1.8 or so million notional going up. And a similar level on the 30th, a little bit less, maybe about 1.6 million going up there. So it hasn't been blowing the doors off there, out there, I should say. On the options front, Bitcoin futures, that's a different story over there on CME. They're actually doing some decent paper. And today, also a pretty decent volume day. Over 8,000 contracts on the tape coming into showtime. Last week, similar story, 10,700 on Friday, 18,000 hitting the tape on Thursday, 13,800 on Wednesday, 17,400 on Tuesday, Monday, 14,000. So the futures continue to grow, continue to light it up. That's why I and many others really expected maybe a more robust launch to the options. We're going to have Tim McCourt from the CME, the guy who heads up the crypto as well as the equity options, coming on TWIFO later this week. So we'll put that question to him, why he thinks maybe these things have started off slow, what he thinks maybe, because clearly the futures, the size is not the issue because the futures are doing a ton. The futures are also that 5x multiplier, 5x coin size contract. So if it was just size, then the futures wouldn't be tearing it up. So there could be some issues behind the scenes. Some brokers haven't added them yet. A lot of these other, the devil is in the details with these new products. And so that could also be a reason why we haven't seen commensurate volume. If it was just size, I think we would be seeing that issue in the futures, and we clearly are not. The futures lighten it up out there, pretty much however you want to cut it out there. 18,000 nearly on Thursday last week. So pretty active time out there in the futures. Not so much on the BAKKT futures front. Again, our old friend, the BAKKT volume bot. If you are intrigued by such things, I encourage you to give them a follow. They do the best insightful analysis of what's going on over there on the BAKKT futures front. Their weekly summary shows about 76 million going up. That's again, notional value. Up about 84%, so a little bit of an increase out there. Max open interest is up to 11.6 million. That's up 52%. These are, again, the monthly futures that BAKKT is doing. So BAKKT's doing a little bit decent volume on the futures side. Still waiting when that's going to aggregate into the options, but we could say the same thing about CME. Haven't really seen it materialize there either. All right, let's keep on rolling. A lot of you guys like to play in the altcoin, and we do too. A little bit of the old altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, let's get to it. The altcoin universe, everything that is in Bitcoin, except when we do this top 10 breakdown, which we've started doing again because there has been enough moving and shaking and changing of hands in the top 5 and indeed the top 10 out there in overall market cap that it is worth exploring, I think, a little bit out there. Again, take the overall market cap numbers with a grain of salt. We've discussed it many times how those are probably a little bit overcalculated, a little bit overdone. But I think the rankings, still have some merit. Number 1, we got, of course, Bitcoin, right about 170 billion. Number 2, ETH, almost 21 billion. Number 3, XRP, ticking up a little bit. We'll get to that in a bit. 10, almost 11 billion out there. Number 4, Bitcoin Cash, 6.9 billion. Number 5, Bitcoin SV, 6.1 billion. Let's go to the full top 10. Why not? Number 6, Tether, 4.6 billion. Number 7, Litecoin. Oh, how the mighty have fallen since the halving, down to a paltry number 7 with merely 4.4 billion worth of market cap out there. Number 8, we've got EOS with about 3.9 billion. Number 9, Binance Coin, ticking up there a little bit, about 2.8 billion. And round out the top 10, we've got Cardano, about close to 1.5 billion. Let's get to the biggest of the altcoins. Let's go to ETH out there right now. It's up about 18 handles from the last show. So a good little run yet again for ETH, and it has ticked up a little bit again. About another handle actually puts it up about 19 right now. It's right about 190 and change right now coming into the altcoin universe segment. Let's check out the ETH options as well. You guys, of course, can check this out for yourself. Same place, SKEW.com. They dig into the ETH as well. It's definitely the number 2 overall crypto options market out there. It falls off quite a bit after ETH. And ETH itself is a big drop-off from Bitcoin. 30-day realized up a bit, up to about 81% from 71%. We've seen a little bit of movement, as we've mentioned on the show in the past, out there in ETH land as well. The implied also up a little bit, up to about 75% from 70% on the last show. Call to put also up, kind of up across the board here, up to about 71% from 65% last week. The ADV out there is at about 1.8 million worth of notional value changing hands. But this week is, again, a pretty active week. We're seeing a strong volume out there across a lot of these products, including the ETH options. Again, that ADV is about 1.8 million notional. We only saw one day over the course of the past week, and that was a Saturday, with lower than that level, about 571,000. Every other day was well over that, including many days over 4 million. The 28th had over 4 million. The 29th had over 4 million. Even the 30th looks like right about 4 million. Then looks like about 2.6 or so on the 31st. And then we, again, fall off a bit. For the first, it comes back again, but still, pretty much every day, except for Saturday over the course of the past week, has been well north, sometimes 2x what that ADV. So ETH options, turn it up a little bit. We'll get to some of that in a little bit, what actually is printing out there. In terms of the SKEW, it's pretty much unched. It was about minus 4%. It's about minus 4.3% out there right now, so not a ton really blowing the doors off out there from a change of SKEW perspective. OI growing a little bit, up to about 34 million from about 29 million out there last week. Let's see where the action was. There's some weird prints out here. Pretty sizable prints, too. Again, it's a smaller contract out there in the ETH option, so bear that in mind. But we saw multiple 650 lots going up this week of the March 600 calls. Looks like maybe against or perhaps with the March 520 calls. A lot of these going up last week on the 28th, which was, of course, Tuesday. So the 28th was a big day for it. I guess you can call it maybe a ratio vertical, maybe just a ratio stupid. Either way, the 520s and the 600s were printing quite a bit when the ETH was a little bit shy, actually a decent amount shy, almost 20 handles shy of where it is right now. It was when the ETH was right around 171.5. That's when most of this went up back on last Tuesday. We saw a 1,996 lot of the March 520s also going up. Looks like against 4,000 almost of the March 600. So looks like it's a bit of a ratio, maybe a house money roll. Maybe they're rolling themselves up. Either way, 600 strike is neither of these strikes are really remotely relevant. So doing a ratio on one, maybe they are. Again, they're both listed here. Both sides are listed as sales. So if it's an opening, again, we don't have the OI, so it's hard to tell if this is opening. This gets to a listener question we're going to have in a little bit about how nice would it be to have something along the lines of an OCC to help clarify some of this for us, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But right now, it's a ton of paper, 2,000 lots, 4,000 lots, decent size, all of it selling, apparently, on the 520 and 600 strikes. Maybe someone is trying to overwrite a ton of ETH against some of their size holdings, in which case, if they get up to 600, they'll be happy to dump it. We're at not even 200 right now, so go figure, a 3x rally, they'll be willing to sell it. But either way, kind of weird paper out here in ETH this week. All right, moving on to Ripple. It has actually had a decent run here this week, up nearly 2 cents, about 1.7 cents here. Actually, just ticked up, so it is close to pretty much 2 cents right now. It's just a little bit north of 25 cents right now, so a decent little rally from last week when we saw our old friend Ripple not feeling not feeling the love. It was about 23 cents. So yeah, about almost exactly 2 cents on the week. So a good little run. Again, it's been dogged by fears of dumping and everything else, but apparently that's been overcome for the time being. We'll love to see some Ripple options, but the underlying is so cheap in and of itself, it kind of makes options a little bit moot at these levels. Get back up to the $3 or $4 level, maybe we could talk some options actions. Bitcoin Cash up about $10 from last show, so a good run for them as well. Bitcoin SV down a whopping $27 this week, so not a good run for them. But what it is a good run, though, what it is a good run for is your questions. So without further ado, let's get to some of those. It's time for your crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Crypto Questions, a portion of the show where we, like the title says, we answer some of your questions. Let's kick it off here. See how many we can squeeze in here. The tail end, again, just doing a quick hit today to kind of keep you guys abreast of everything going on in the world of crypto derivatives. We'll be back soon with more guests and fuller shows and all that sort of fun stuff. STADIAN wants to know right now, what's up with the fractional options trades on DERIBIT? You know, funny you should ask. I noted that myself. And I need to reach out to the DERIBIT folks or maybe the SKEW folks. They have the data over there and see exactly what the heck is up with that. Because, as you say, it is kind of weird. It's not a thing we usually see. I mean, I know crypto trades in fractionals all the time, but the options are usually a standardized contract. It's for X amount of the underlying at a given date by a given time. You can't trade half of an option. It's not how they work. So seeing these prints here, it looks like SKEW is showing 92.4 lots right now of the 9,500 calls went up last week in Bitcoin options. That's a strange print. So at 70.7 of the Jan 9,000 puts also going up. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably some sort of data error. I don't know how, unless DERIBIT has some funky contracts where you can trade. I want this contracted amount, but only half of it, if you're allowed to do that. And again, I'll have to reach out to DERIBIT. Maybe they will. You're not going to see these types of fractional prints on, a CME or others. They have standardized contracts. That's what the contract is for. You trade one or you trade none. You don't trade a half of it. So your question is a good one, Stadian, and I don't know the literal answer. I'm going out on a limb and say it's probably some bad data being disseminated out there. 82.5 of the Feb 8,000 puts. But yeah, if you're doing halves, then that's a good sign. You probably need to do some smaller size contracts out there as well, which is what we see in the broad traditional financial space. People want smaller. Look at the CME micros and how successful they were. People like smaller size contracts. That can be accommodated with a smaller size contract, not with doing half of the allotted contract. That is not how it is traditionally done, shall we say. All right, let's move on to next one here from ACTON. ACTON, do you think the SCHWAB TD merger will have a chilling effect on crypto trading? That's another interesting question. I tried to get to that with the ErisX folks when they were on the show a couple of weeks ago in the crypto hot seat, because as you probably know, if you listen to this show, TD, a big strategic investor, probably the biggest strategic investor in ErisX. Every time they put out a press release when they announced it or going forward, the CEO of TD was always very prominently quoted in those releases. So clearly TD wanted to get out in front of crypto. They were much more, open about having it on their platform. They were investing in these types of entities out there. So crypto seemed like it was a growth area for them. And we, quite frankly, haven't heard the same level of interest from a firm like Schwab. Schwab, a much more traditional, a little bit more staid type firm. We've seen with their various forays into derivatives in the past, like acquiring Options Express and others, they were slow to sometimes adopt some of the features and functionality that were available in the derivative space. They would shut down entities that they viewed as compliance risks, things like Brokers Express that a lot of the options industry saw as a great gateway, a great entry point for a lot of financial advisors and asset managers to get into the options market. Schwab just shut it down. They saw it as a compliance risk, and that's all they cared about. They obviously have a very large advisor core, and that's what they want to protect and are most concerned about. So whether they see crypto fitting in with that or not, I don't know. I tried to get to that with the ErisX folks. I couldn't really get an answer out of them. They tried to play it off as they weren't concerned. I have to imagine behind the scenes they probably are a little bit concerned over that because we haven't heard the same level of interest from Schwab as we did from TD in that. So I guess the only answer I can give you right now, Acton, is maybe, because we don't know if this deal is even done. There are some rumblings about some regulatory review. It is a huge merger after all, so I'd be surprised if there wasn't some regulatory review from the DOJ on this. But I have to think, given what we've seen in the past from how Schwab has operated on these, anything that is somewhat on the fringe or poses any sort of compliance type of issue, not going to get a priority at the very least. So I don't think Schwab will maybe make it as front and center as TD did. But hey, I'm willing to be surprised on that front. We'll have to see for now, unfortunately. But yeah, I think you're on the right tip there, Acton. I don't think they're going to be as gung-ho about crypto as TD was. But again, TD, much more of a transactionally oriented business. And that's why they wanted crypto, which, as we saw, kind of worked to their detriment when Schwab went zero commissions and cut their legs out from under them there. So perhaps there's an argument to be made for being a little bit more in the staid camp like Schwab. Let's move on here. Our final comment here. This comes from DANTOM. DANTOM, maybe two guys send in the comments. Who knows? But they want to know here, we need an OCC for crypto options so we can have some sense of what is going up out there. It's just a crazy minefield out there right now, but keep the great shows coming. Well, thanks, Dan and or Tom, or perhaps both of you. We will keep the great shows coming. We try, anyway, to endeavor to make some fun audio for you guys to enjoy, including these little bite-sized crypto quick hits right around a half an hour for you here. And, you know, I agree with you. I think there'd be a lot in the crypto space that would probably disagree with you. I think the entire spirit, the ethos of crypto is against centralization like this. So a lot of people don't want to see that happen. But, of course, if you want to have a viable, functional, sizable, liquid financial marketplace for crypto derivatives, you kind of need some of that stuff. So we're starting to see that now with CME. Obviously, they have central clearing. They have track records for all this stuff. So as that starts to take off, maybe BAKKT and others will follow suit in terms of once they start getting some volume going, we'll be able to see more of this kind of stuff that you're looking for. DANTOM, right now, you're right. We're getting these weird fractional prints out of places like DERIBIT and others, and it's not quite the same centralized clearing. We don't know really. It's hard to intuit what's opening, what's closing out there. We don't really have sides. We can't really look at the execution and say, okay, this is probably a sale, this is probably a buy. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to improve the analytics, improve the data we're getting on this side of the fence as well. And you're right, something analogous to an OCC would help with that. But yeah, I don't see, unless you're just looking at the CME options and what they clear. Outside of that, I don't see that coming down the pike. Unfortunately for you, Dan and or Tom, anytime soon. All right. That music means we've come to the end of our allotted half hour here. Man, how time flies. We're talking crypto. We'll be back with you soon. Don't worry. Talking more crypto next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. In the meantime, if you like what you hear, again, head on over to your venues of choice. Leave a little review. Help others discover this fine program and the rest of the fun stuff there on the network. If you want more content in your ear canal throughout the rest of the week, we got it covered for you. Of course, you can subscribe to all of our stuff on all the various platforms. Grab our mobile app. However you like to listen, of course, join us live throughout the week as well via Mix. And again, however you listen, keep those questions, those comments coming. We do love to hear from all of you, even if you're two people sending in one question. All of the above. We love to hear from you guys, and we'll see you back here next time for more of the Crypto Rundown.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.